My name is Isabella Grayson. I'm 36 years old, living in Austin, Texas, and I was just fired by the company I had dedicated more than 7.5 years to in a meeting that lasted less than 10 minutes. No thank you, no warning, just a cold meeting, a forced smile, and 6 words. Your services are no longer needed. I was the lead systems architect at Vertex Intelligence, one of the rising tech firms in enterprise AI. I developed Halcyon, the integrated automation platform they were planning to unveil to investors next week. Every line of code, every module, I wrote, refined, and manually tested it over the past 2 years. Sleepless nights, missed holidays, birthdays spent with a late dinner at my keyboard, I poured everything into Halcyon, my brainchild. That morning started like any other. I arrived early, made myself an Americano, and sat down to review the final security patch. The system was running smoother than ever, nearly ready for presentation. At exactly 9:12 a.m., my inbox pinged with an urgent email from HR. No subject, no body. Just a meeting invite from Raymond Burke, the CEO, and Chloe Nguyen, the head of HR. My chest tightened instantly. I grabbed my laptop and walked down the long glass corridor to the third-floor conference room. On my way, I passed the server rack, machines I had personally designed, configured, and optimized to support Halcyon. The framed milestone photos along the hallway were still there. National Innovation Award year, Series B funding year, and of course, every one of them featured Raymond. Me? I never appeared in any of them, even though the system hadn't gone down for a single second in 3 years, all because of me. The conference room door opened. Raymond was already seated, fingers interlocked, wearing the smug expression of a man too sure of himself. Chloe sat next to him, never once making eye contact. Raymond spoke like he was reading a script from an outdated ad campaign. Squana, Isabella, we appreciate your contributions, but leadership has decided to take the company in a new direction. Your role is being dissolved, effective immediately. I kept my face blank. I'd learned long ago that silence unravels people faster than rage. Would you like my laptop now? I asked calmly. Raymond nodded, not even bothering to hide his satisfaction. The sooner the better. I gently placed the MacBook on the table, stood up, and as I walked out, I left him with a parting line that froze his expression. Good luck with the investor pitch next week without me. Raymond raised an eyebrow, not fully grasping the implication. The company will manage. I gave a soft laugh and kept walking. Let's hope so. The elevator doors closed behind me. That was when the countdown began. Halcyon's high-security protocol would activate exactly 8 minutes after my admin access was revoked. No one but me knew that mechanism existed. I hadn't designed it for sabotage. I built it for defense, to keep opportunists from stealing and exploiting what I had worked so hard to create. 6 months earlier, I discovered Raymond had been quietly copying core data onto temporary drives. I silently wrapped the system in an invisible layer of security, something that wouldn't appear on any dashboard. It wasn't sabotage, it was survival insurance. They thought they could cut me out of the game, but what they didn't understand was this. I'm the only one who actually knew how the game was played. 3 hours after leaving the Vertex Intelligence building, I sat back on the worn-out couch in my second-floor apartment, sipping a cup of chamomile tea. The apartment was small but warm, the only place I could still hear myself after 8 hours drowned in keystrokes and endless meetings. The TV was playing an old game show, the light from the screen casting a glow on the wall that felt almost like peace. I waited. Not because I hoped they'd call, but because I knew they would. At 5:24 p.m., my phone buzzed. The screen showed unknown number, Houston, TX. I didn't answer. 3 minutes later, another call. This time, it was an internal line. I let it ring out. On the third try, I put it on speaker. Isabella, it's me, Harvey Lynn. One of the few senior engineers I still respected, his voice rushed, tense. We can't log in. The whole dev team is panicking. Halcyon's rejecting every form of authentication. The system's throwing serious error flags. Do you think it's a security bug? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. It's not a bug, it's a feature. What? Harvey, did you ever wonder why I never let anyone touch the control core? Halcyon doesn't respond like that to a simple glitch. It's protecting itself. In the background, I heard someone yelling, probably the product lead, about tomorrow's demo and investors flying in from Boston. Harvey lowered his voice. Raymond wants you to come back, just temporarily. They need the system stable before the demo in the morning. No, I said quietly. I'm not coming back to fix things. If they want it running, it's going to take more than an apology. Silence lasted exactly 6 seconds. So, what do you want? I stood up, walked to my desk, and pulled out a small black USB drive. I want 25% equity in Halcyon, based on the current valuation, a seat on the Vertex board, and my name clearly listed as lead architect in every legal document, investor deck, and media release. Harvey choked. You're serious? I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. I just saved you from being the senior engineer at the center of a national tech catastrophe. Trust me, that's a bargain. By 8 p.m., the phone rang again. This time, it was Monica Reddington, Raymond's new executive assistant. Her voice was dry, forced to sound professional. Mr. Burke would like to meet with you. A car will pick you up within 30 minutes at your current address. Send the contract first, or I'm not leaving my house. And tell him I don't walk into meetings empty-handed. 35 minutes later, I walked through the front entrance of Vertex. No visitor badge needed. Every eye in the lobby turned toward me. The woman who had been thrown out just that morning, now returning with the composure of someone who knew exactly who was in control. Raymond was waiting in the 6th floor conference room. He looked worn down, tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. Monica sat beside him, along with a man in a gray suit, likely legal counsel. On the table was a thick contract with the equity recipient field still blank. I sat down and placed the USB on the table. This is the patch that will restore the full security processing loop. Halcyon will be back online within 12 minutes of execution, but before I enter the unlock code, I need every term signed, sealed, and a copy sent to my lawyer on the spot. Raymond looked at me, his eyes full of helplessness and barely disguised resentment. You really know how to pick your moment. I'm not the one who picked it, I replied, locking eyes with him. You did. I'm just choosing how to respond. The room was thick with tension. Monica pulled out her phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, my attorney sent back the verified agreement. I plugged in the USB, entered the dual authentication code. As the process ran, I glanced around the room, a place that had made me feel invisible for years. Now, I wasn't the one behind the software. I was the one running it. Raymond squinted. So this is the revenge you've always wanted? I smiled. If this were revenge, it would be a lot messier. I'm just here to reclaim what's mine. Under the cold fluorescent lights, the system began to restore. The screen displayed, Halcyon protocol reinstated, all systems nominal. I stood up. See you at the demo, and this time, try to remember my name. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I walked into Vertex's largest conference hall, this time as an invited executive, not the engineer shoved out the back door. Hanging from my neck was a new black badge with a silver stripe, reserved for board members. Below my name, Isabella Grayson, co-lead developer board member. No more cautious stares, no more whispers behind my back like the weeks before. Harvey caught my eye and gave a small nod. That nod said more than any apology ever could. The demo started right on time. Monica handled the introduction in her usual flat tone, followed by Raymond's opening remarks. Typical corporate fluff written by an assistant. But when it came time to talk about Halcyon, he paused, glanced in my direction, and reluctantly passed me the mic. I stepped onto the stage in a charcoal suit, hair neatly tied back, the Halcyon logo gleaming behind me under the lights. Good morning. I'm Isabella Grayson, the lead architect of the Halcyon system. What you're about to see is not just an AI platform. It's a system built to adapt, to protect itself, and, most importantly, to remember. That last line made a few executives in the crowd raise their eyebrows. I didn't care. Halcyon handled 5 live simulation scenarios: cyber attack, process failure, network outage, emergency coordination, and even internal manipulation, all performed above expectations. After the demo, a barrage of questions came, directed at me, not Raymond. I answered clearly, confidently, never once looking his way for validation. I didn't need to anymore. When the session ended, I returned to my new office, 8th floor, west-facing, full glass windows. On my desk was a tablet with Halcyon's admin interface already open. From now on, every system-level change, software updates, data flow adjustments, or security access would be logged and mirrored directly to my device. No one could modify, duplicate, or disable anything without leaving a trace. I called it reflective mode, an invisible control layer embedded in the code, always present. Not to sabotage, but to remind them that if they ever thought about flipping the board now belonged to me. That afternoon, Raymond showed up at my office. He didn't knock. Isabella, we need to talk. I looked up from the screen. If it's technical, send it to IT. If it's strategic, add it to the board calendar. He gripped his briefcase tightly, clearly holding back. Some board members think you're consolidating too much control. I stood, walked slowly to the window. No one controls what they don't understand. I'm just making sure no one breaks what they can't rebuild. He didn't respond, then turned and walked out. The door clicked softly shut behind him. A final punctuation to the era where he thought I was just another pawn to move around. I sat down and opened a new tab. Certificate of 25% ownership. Halcyon. Filed with the U.S. Patent Office that morning. Legal recognition of my position. No one could erase my name from what I'd built ever again. Just then, the tablet vibrated softly. A new Halcyon alert. Unauthorized access detected from secondary admin account and finance module. Behavior matches prior breach patterns. I frowned. The access attempt had occurred at 3:18 p.m., exactly while I was presenting on stage. Someone had tried to clone the core code while I was speaking. I opened the detailed access log. The account, M. Reddington, Monica. I wasn't surprised. I activated fog mode, a defensive response that feeds false data to the intruder. It mimics real code while embedding complex encryption and scrambled sequences that can't be compiled. They thought I came back just to reclaim a title, but they forgot I came to control the entire board. And if Monica, or anyone else, thinks this story ended with a successful demo, they're about to find out I've only just begun. I spent that entire evening combing through every log Halcyon had sent back. The unauthorized access attempts had started a week earlier, back when I hadn't even returned to Vertex yet. But what alarmed me was the sharp increase in frequency over the past 3 days, exactly when the system had been reactivated after my negotiation with Raymond. The intruder didn't leave clear traces. They used internal VPNs, high-level encryption, and staggered their activity to late hours. 1:47 a.m., 3:12 a.m., 4:05 a.m., but Halcyon didn't just monitor commands. It tracked behavior. My AI model had learned user patterns, how they typed commands, the delay between keystrokes, even what they tended to search for in technical files. This user wasn't particularly skilled at hiding. They knew how to mask access through proxy commands, but they made one critical mistake. They repeatedly accessed core modules tied to identity verification and copyright protection. No regular user would even know where those were, unless they had deep knowledge of the system's internals. And only 2 people outside of me had ever had access to that part of the system: Raymond and Monica. I cross-referenced the login credentials. The internal account was mreddington-a-match-a-match, a match for Monica Reddington, the executive assistant hired just 8 months ago. A name that had always felt like background noise, floating through meeting agendas and travel schedules. But when I traced the login IP from a mirrored backup system, I found a strange address. CloudVault DRX Ops GenNet. Not a Vertex server, not tied to any of our licensed storage vendors. When I entered the domain into a secure internal browser, a plain white login page appeared. No branding, just a logo of 3 interlocking rings. I checked the domain's registration. It was linked to a company named Larkspur Analytics, formed 3 months ago, registered in Delaware. Things started becoming clear. I dug into the business records. Larkspur Analytics, LLC, listed 2 shareholders, Monica Reddington and someone else, Raymond Ellis Burke. I sat still for several minutes. They had formed a shell company, the goal, to copy Halcyon, strip away its embedded author signatures, rename it, and launch it as a new platform. With no ties to me, no origin history, and no legal liabilities. They were trying to steal Halcyon, line by line, under the guise of parallel development. And if I hadn't installed reflective mode, I might have missed it entirely. I returned to Halcyon and activated Level 2 Defense Protocol, what I internally called Valley of Mirrors. When someone attempts to breach core code without my biometric signature, the system begins to serve false data, scrambled logic, inverted architecture, error loops, all disguised well enough to convince the attacker they're getting the real thing. A perfect trap. Not destructive, just misleading. Enough to make thieves feel like they're holding a sword when they're really gripping a plastic replica. I created a bait file. Halcyon _alpha_proto_v2 and buried it 3 folders deep, matching my usual sandbox structure. I knew Monica would go for it. And just as I expected, at 2:37 a.m. the next morning, Halcyon sent back the alert. Decoy file downloaded, accessor, mreddington. I didn't report it. Not yet. They believed they had stolen my most valuable asset. But what they didn't know was what they held was a corpse copy, a digital illusion that would collapse the moment they tried to sell it or deploy it elsewhere. On Monday morning, I pulled up the office security camera feed. Raymond and Monica sat together in a small meeting room. She was beaming, sliding a folder toward him. They both signed something. The scene looked like 2 people preparing to split a victory. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Strangely, I felt calm. Because from this point forward, every misstep they made, every report they submitted, every line of code they transferred was already being compiled into a legal dossier I was preparing for the board of directors. I didn't need to slam desks. I didn't need to raise my voice. I only needed one thing, a complete, time-stamped, authenticated report with digital signatures and hard infrastructure evidence. It took me 3 days to compile the report, not because I lacked evidence. Halcyon had logged every access attempt, every download command, every IP address, but because I wanted it to be undeniable. I edited the full access logs into an animated sequence, allowing viewers to track the data theft process in real time. I attached network traffic records pointing to Larkspur Analytics domain, along with business registration documents listing Raymond Ellis Burke and Monica Reddington as shareholders. Finally, I included the fake code modules they downloaded, each labeled automatically by Halcyon as decoy file, unauthorized use, unverified source. I submitted the report through the internal oversight system with a short subject line. Urgent meeting request, major IP violation. Less than 2 hours later, I received a response. Evelyn Shaw, the chair of the board, issued a meeting invitation to all members scheduled for 9:00 IMing the next day in the 20th floor boardroom. That morning, I arrived early. No makeup, white shirt, gray slacks, laptop in hand, head held high. As I entered the room, Raymond sat at the far end of the table, arms crossed, face cold as stone. Monica was absent. Evelyn opened the meeting. Ms. Grayson, you submitted this report. Would you summarize it for the board? I nodded, connected my laptop to the projector, and began. What you're about to see is not speculation nor accusation. This is data collected automatically by the Halcyon platform over the past 10 days. I opened the first slide. Login entries appeared, usernames, timestamps, IP addresses, alongside Halcyon's interface detecting and flagging each breach. The account Reddington executed over 40 instances of core data duplication to an external server. That server is owned by a company called Larkspur Analytics. Click to the next slide, company registration documents. Larkspur Analytics was formed by Raymond Ellis Burke, Vertex current CEO, and Monica Reddington, his executive assistant. The listed purpose: development of AI solutions for enterprise use. The silence was thick enough to hear the ticking wall clock. Raymond sat motionless, but I saw the twitch in his jaw. Evelyn turned to him. Mr. Burke, do you have a response? Raymond lifted his head, trying to stay composed. This is a misunderstanding. Monica handles a lot of documentation. She may have overstepped. I didn't say a word. I just played the final clip, Monica and Raymond signing documents at a law office. The title on the contract read, Joint Commercial Rights Agreement, Halcyon Product. No one spoke for a full 2 minutes. Finally, Evelyn closed her laptop and opened her notebook. I propose a vote. Immediate suspension of Mr. Raymond Burke from his role as CEO. Immediate termination of Miss Monica Reddington for severe breach of internal security. All in favor? All 8 hands went up. Raymond said nothing. He stood, took out his phone, and walked out without a word. The door closed behind him, and I knew then an era at Vertex had ended. Evelyn turned to me. Ms. Grayson, the board unanimously agrees to appoint you as interim CTO. From this moment on, the entire AI infrastructure at Vertex is under your leadership. Do you accept? I didn't smile. I simply nodded. I'm ready. After the meeting, I returned to my new office, now bearing the nameplate, Isabella Grayson, CTO. Halcyon flashed a quiet message across the screen. System-level access granted, full control authorized. I looked out the window. The city buzzed below like any other day, but inside me was a rare stillness. Not from victory, but from the quiet clarity of finally removing the hidden hands behind me. I hadn't just returned to the company. I had rewritten the way it operated. And this time, no one would ever erase my name from what I had built. 3 weeks after that pivotal board meeting, I stood center stage at the National Tech Expo in Chicago, on a platform built exclusively for Vertex Intelligence. Behind me, a massive LED screen displayed the company's updated logo, sleeker, sharper, with a new tagline I had personally proposed. We don't just build software, we build intelligent protection. Halcyon was no longer a product buried behind glossy, empty presentations. It was now the centerpiece of our new strategy, a real-time, adaptive automation platform trusted by industries ranging from healthcare to finance. Over the past few weeks, I'd met with more than a dozen engineering teams, refining Halcyon's modules for 3 priority sectors: insurance, logistics, and hospital administration. The first contract came from a life insurance provider based in Minneapolis. They had lost over $18 million in a data breach. After a simulated Halcyon demo, they signed a 3-year deal, with almost no negotiation. Next came a private hospital chain in Atlanta. They requested a custom Halcyon build, integrated with their patient record tracking and staff access monitoring. Harvey led that team, and I let him take full ownership of the design. He understood better than anyone what could happen if a system was abused from the inside. I didn't attend every meeting, but I was always there for the crucial moments, not because I held the CTO title, but because I had been with Halcyon since its first line of code. One midweek afternoon, after a demo with investors from Singapore, Evelyn stopped by my office. "You've done well, Isabella," she said, setting a coffee cup on my desk. "I haven't seen this kind of coordination between engineering and ops in years." I smiled, glancing at Halcyon's dashboard on my screen. All system metrics were in optimal range. No red flags. No unauthorized access. "I didn't do it alone," I replied. "But I'm no longer the unnamed line at the bottom of a report." Evelyn laughed for the first time since we'd met. "Exactly. And I have a proposal." I looked up. "Our comms team is launching a campaign called Faces Behind the Tech. I want you to be the face of our AI platform. Of Halcyon." I paused. There was a time I'd dreamed of being featured in brochures, product launches, even investor letters. But I'd buried that dream long ago, along with every time I saw Raymond take credit for things he never touched. "I'm not really the spokesperson type," I said, half joking. "I'm more of a code and compliance kind of person." "But you resonate with people in a way no one else can," Evelyn replied. "You don't have to say much. Just stand there, and they'll believe." I nodded. "Right. But I pick the photographer." We both laughed. The following week, I appeared on the cover of Tech Pulse magazine under a bold headline: "Isabella Grayson, the woman who turned code into a shield." Beneath the photo was a quote from my interview. "I didn't build Halcyon to compete with hackers. I built it to recognize who holds power and to reject commands when they're unworthy." The tech community's response was faster than I expected. Dozens of emails, collaboration offers, and messages from young engineers and final year students poured in. Many said they'd never seen a platform designed to defend itself from internal betrayal. One afternoon, as I passed the break room, I noticed a group of interns rewatching my keynote from the Chicago Expo. They didn't realize I was standing nearby. One curly-haired girl whispered, "I didn't know the person behind Halcyon was a woman. She doesn't just sound smart, she looks like she actually gets it." I didn't interrupt. I just kept walking, heart unexpectedly light. I no longer had to shout to be heard. I just had to stand exactly where I belonged. On a quiet Friday afternoon, as the Vertex building grew empty after office hours, I sat alone in my office on the 8th floor, the sunset casting a soft glow over my desk, where Halcyon's control panel still illuminated. Outside, the city of Austin gleamed like a pulsing vein of tech innovation, but inside me was a different feeling: steadfastness. I opened the internal file documenting the entire 6-month journey, from the day I was pushed out of the system as a nameless entity to today, when I now held the highest level of access, legal recognition, and a team that trusted me. Not because I shouted, not because I sabotaged, but because I had built something that, even when betrayed, knew how to protect itself. When I first wrote the lines of code for Halcyon, I didn't envision being robbed of credit, nor did I imagine Monica or Raymond. I just knew that this system had to be intelligent and able to distinguish between the creator and the exploiters. And when they tried to steal it, Halcyon spoke for me. I didn't build this system to take revenge. I didn't turn it into a weapon. I simply wrote it following one simple principle I learned from my own betrayal. A creation deserves protection that its creator never got. Someone once asked me if I regretted not taking Raymond and Monica to court. I shook my head. Not because I couldn't have, but because I understood that justice isn't always found in a verdict. It's found in exposing the truth, in watching those who thought they controlled everything stand and watch as it all slips through their fingers, simply because they didn't understand what they were trying to take. Raymond never returned to Vertex after the termination meeting. Monica disappeared from the tech world, at least off my radar. Rumors spread that they were trying to raise funds for a new AI platform, but when auditors requested verification of the core code, it all collapsed, because they had nothing but fake code created from the decoy traps I'd set up. And I never had to lift a finger to destroy anything. The truth and design did that for me. A month ago, I was invited to speak at the Women in Tech conference in Denver. I walked onto the stage with no slides, no pre-recorded videos, just one story. My name is Isabella Grayson, and I'm not here because I was lucky. I'm here because I was once discarded, once stolen from, and once treated like I didn't exist. But instead of turning that into anger, I turned it into a defense mechanism, not just for me, but for everyone who will come after me. Sometimes you don't need to scream to be heard, you just need to create a system that cannot ignore you. Hundreds of people sat in silence. Then, someone clapped. Then the entire auditorium stood up. That evening, a final year computer science student sent me an email. She wrote, "I used to think justice meant someone had to face consequences, but after hearing you, I understand. Sometimes just surviving and continuing to create something of value is the greatest form of justice." I printed that email and tucked it into my personal notebook. I don't know how much longer I'll lead Halcyon or remain CTO at Vertex, but I do know one thing. No matter who comes after me, this system will always remember who built it, and it will always protect the principles I embedded deep within its core. I once thought a person's value was in how others remember them, but now I understand. True value is in what you leave behind, and whether it continues to stand strong when you're no longer there. Honor cannot be bought, hard work cannot be erased, and integrity cannot be stolen. It can only be protected line by line of code. And Halcyon did that, just like I did. Isabella's story is proof that in a world filled with competition and betrayal, the most powerful way to respond is not through revenge, but by protecting what we have built with intelligence and principles. She didn't just reclaim her honor, but also created a system that preserves its core values. In real life, it's not about avoiding harm, but about knowing how to rise and design your life in a way that no one can erase your name from what you've created. What do you think about Isabella's journey? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful, emotional stories about family and life.